This is our third seminar in the series, and due to COVID, we're doing it remotely. So thank you for appearing at this and being willing to participate in a Zoom call for this. I want to thank our sponsors, DLCCS, it's DLC Consulting Services, Diane Camacho, LawPay, and Thomson Reuters for sponsoring the series and seminars. So today we have the number 3 seminar with David Erb as our moderator, Barbara Arsedo, Marie Quashnock and Alay Yajnik, talking about clients, getting them, keeping them, and saying goodbye. I'm going to be putting myself on mute and stopping my video shortly, but if you have questions during the seminar, please type them into the chat, and we'll be sharing those throughout the seminar so that our panelists can answer any questions that you have. So the easiest thing is just type it into chat, and I will send it on to the panelists and they can answer your question. We'll also be stopping throughout the seminar to see if there's any questions that they can answer for you. So I will turn it over to David Erb, and I appreciate everyone for being here today. Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you, David Pearson. Appreciate the introduction to the program. Also wanted to quickly thank Ann Wolf from the Bar Association. She's been really instrumental in setting up this series. And the idea behind this series is really, we've been focusing on either people that are solo attorneys or thinking about starting a practice, or people that are thinking about changing their practice area, and to give them some kind of information and guidance on different topics that would be relevant. I want to just do a short introduction to all the panelists, have them introduce themselves and their background, so you can kind of get a flavor of where everyone comes from and what experience they have. And then we'll dive into the different topics that we have. But if you have any questions, please type them in. We're going to try to get those in as much as we can, because the whole point of this was to really try to have a discussion between the panelists and the people that are attending. It's a little bit more difficult given electronic video recording, but we're going to try our best. So my name is David Erb. I'm a partner at Flicker, Karen, Kruger, and Basada. I'm a family law attorney. My background's in finance and business valuation work. So I specialize in complicated high asset divorce cases. I was the past president of the family law section of the Contra Costa Bar Association. I'm currently on the board of the Big Bar, and I chair the education committee that's put on this program and some other educational programs. One of the reasons why I wanted to moderate this is I actually started my law practice as a solo practitioner using the Bar Association to build my business. And Barbara is going to be discussing some of the programs that we have at the Bar Association that can help you bring in clients and really build your book of business. So Barbara, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Barbara Arsedo. I'm the director of the Lawyer Referral Service at the Bar Association, as well as our Moderate Means program. I've been there almost 13 years now. My previous background was in real estate for a little over 20 years, and I'm the one that all the referrals go through, and the clients contact us. And we're still staying afloat, even during the working remotely.
Good. And Alay Yajnik, would you like to introduce yourself and give everyone some background, please?
Sure, David. First off, thanks to you, David, and to the Contra Costa County Bar Association for having me here today. It's always a pleasure to present to this bar. It's one of the best bars in the Bay Area where you can't necessarily get a drink. So thank you guys so much. What I do in a nutshell is I'm a law firm growth specialist. So I provide coaching and consulting to solo and small law firms. My goal is to help my clients increase their revenue, take more time off, and do both of those things while actually having less stress. Very excited to be here today. A lot of the things I'm going to be talking about are relevant to, in general, building your practice, but they're really relevant right now in COVID-19 with some of the things that we're going through. So I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Thank you, Alay. And Marie?
Yes, hi. I'm Marie Quashnock, and I'm a partner here at Quashnock and Associates in Brentwood. I am a real estate and civil litigation attorney, and I also do some transactional business and real estate transactional work also. I'm the former president of chair of the real estate section, and currently the chair of the East County section, and I'm also with the membership committee. And I'm also very happy to be here today. I've been in practice now, I want to say, for 30 years, and sort of ran the gamut, worked in large firms, small firms. Currently, this is a small firm. There's only 4 attorneys. I think a lot of the topics discussed here today are important for solo and small firms especially. So hopefully we can share that information with you.
Great, thank you, Marie. So Barbara, I'd like to start off with you. Could you just give us a little bit of information on what programs that the Bar Association is currently providing that can help people attract clients and bring in new business?
Sure, David, thank you. Our main 2 programs that we run through the Contra Costa County Bar Association are our lawyer referral service and our moderate means program. Members can join our lawyer referral service for $100 a year. That's in addition to their normal CCCBA membership fee. And what you get is clients call us, tell us what their legal issue is, and you've already signed up to tell us what type of cases you want to take. For instance, I'm a family law attorney, I do this, 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 and this. So they call us and we schedule them for a half-hour consultation with you. There's no charge to the client on your end. We charge them a small fee to administrate the referral. And then if the client chooses to hire you, then they'll discuss that directly with you. We don't have any part in that. We have a lot of attorneys that have been able to build their practice through the lawyer referral service. We get probably about 2,000 calls a month. And most of them are directed to one of our attorneys, our specialists in every area, from the big criminal, family law, real estate, down to dog law. So we have a lot of panels that people can sign up for. Our other program that we run is called our Moderate Means program, and that is set up for not exceedingly low, but moderate income residents of the county who have either a family law, an elder law, or an immigration law matter, but they can't afford the prices of a regular attorney, a private practice attorney. So the attorneys who sign up to participate in our Moderate Means program agree to take on the clients at a lower rate based on their income level. We do screen them, they fill out an application, verify their income, and then we refer them to one of our Moderate Means program attorneys. The difference being that in the referral service itself, we do collect a 15% fee on any fees that you make after your expenses. If you're a moderate means attorney, you're already taking lower fees. We don't collect anything from the attorney at all. So that all goes back to you. We have a lot of attorneys, for example, David Erb, who started out with the Moderate Means program when they were just starting out. The experience level requirements for the Moderate Means program, especially family law, slightly less than the number of years experience that you would need to become a private practice family law referral attorney. We do have an application for that. We offer online training. We do offer in-person training every few years, but right now everything is online through the PLI Institute. Once you've completed that, you're all set to go, and we don't charge the $100 fee if you join up to be a Moderate Means attorney only. If you're also taking other referrals, then we would charge the fee. But our Moderate Means clients get the application submitted to us. They have to include proof of their income, and then it's reviewed in our office. And once we have everything from the client, we go out to our attorneys that have signed up to take these clients and present it to them and see who wants to take the client. We do have an opportunity for the clients that maybe don't have an income or can't meet the income guidelines to provide a co-signer as well, and the co-signer then sends proof of their income. So we've been able to help quite a few members of the public that way as well. That maybe somebody with a family law issue and they're not, the wife is not working, she needs an attorney. Well, if she could get a co-signer, then we're able to help them. We've had a lot of family law attorneys go through our program. Immigration and elder law, those are more established attorneys. We don't get as many referrals there, but there are some. But our family law moderate means program is very active. It's a really good way to build up your practice, build up the experience that you need to sign on to the referral service as a family law attorney as well.
And Barbara, what are the most active, besides family law, some other practice areas that are active for the lawyer referral services?
We get a lot of requests for landlord-tenant issues, and then estate planning, the various forms of it, whether it's actual estate planning or probate or litigation. Those are probably our three biggest areas.
And as far as the people that you've seen that have really successfully built practices off the programs, can you comment on kind of a theme that you've seen? Was it that they were proactive, they communicated well, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Those attorneys that are willing to communicate with the client and make an effort after the first 30 minutes, maybe have them come back with their documents or whatever it is that their issue is. Those are the ones that tend to become really successful with our referral program. We have several personal injury attorneys who have gone on to larger personal injury cases. The calls that we get for personal injury are usually this smaller kind of slip and fall, dog bite, I slipped in the grocery store type of things. But those attorneys have been able to build those practices into the major catastrophic illnesses.
Yeah, that was my experience with the Moderate Means program. I mean, when I started it, my first case I literally took at $20 an hour, but this was back in 2010, right after the last recession. And so I was just happy to have some work to do. And we'll talk about it. I'm sure Alay will talk about this a little bit, but I used every single client as an opportunity for it to be a referral source. And I would ask them, hey, if you have any friends or family that have any issues, and you had a good experience with me, if you could, remember me, I'd really appreciate that. And then I was able to really snowball and grow my practice, and very quickly graduated out of $20 an hour fee cases into things that were more profitable. So how's the program adapting to the COVID-19 situation?
We are all working remotely. We had installed a new phone system earlier this year, which allows us all to forward any calls to the Bar Association to each of us, our cell phones. It rings on everybody's phone, and whoever's on will answer it. We've also done the Zoom meetings, and we are functioning as we were before, other than we're not all sitting in the office.
Great. And are there other limited scope programs that the Bar Association offers?
We have 3 limited scope programs, 3 formal limited scope programs, 1 for family law, 1 for real estate, and 1 for consumer. We often refer clients that maybe make a little too much for the Moderate Means program, but they still can't afford a private attorney on a retainer. We will encourage them to use the limited scope. And that seems to work out. That's like the next step up from the Moderate Means program, as long as they're willing to do some of the legwork with the attorney.
And so that's just a limited, basically someone who doesn't want to have a full lawyer referral services representation, but they have some legal work that needs to be done. So they're asking, let's do it on a limited scope basis. And so you have a program where you'll refer that out.
Right. It's like, I have all the documents filled out, but I don't know what to do now. Or maybe I've been okay up to this point, but now I have a court appearance and I really don't know what to do about that. And they can continue to go back to the attorney if something new pops up and they need help with.
And are there qualifications to get into that program, or can anyone qualify for that?
Qualifications for the limited scope are a lot less than you do have to be a family law attorney with those qualifications, which are pretty extensive. However, with the limited scope, it's a relatively simple process that you understand how limited scope works, and the court process for registering as a limited scope attorney, that type of thing.
Okay, great. And then Maria, I don't know if you had any comments whether you had used the loyal referral services to help build your practice as well.
I actually just recently this past year decided to give it a try, and I found that you do get some clients that come in and they just come in for the half hour and that's it, and then there's nothing further. But I've also had some luck with other clients that have decided to go ahead and retain me for some real estate matters. So far it seems like it's been working. And my partner, Amy Alvis, who's a family law attorney, she also decided to give it a try as well. So I think that she's also signed up for that, as is one of our associates.
Great. And Barbara, what's the malpractice insurance requirements to take cases with the Bar Association?
You do have to carry E&O insurance with a minimum of 100,000, between 100,000 and 300,000. And we just ask for proof of that every year.
Okay, great. And then I know the criminal conflicts program's no longer a part of the Contra Costa Bar Association, but that was a program that I did use back in 2010. But do you think that you could just discuss it briefly? I think you're familiar with the program.
Well, criminal conflicts is set up for those people that can't use a public defender for whatever reason. Somebody else that's in the case with them is using a public defender, or an overflow type of thing. And it's the next step for a client in a criminal case who cannot get a public defender. The criminal attorneys sign up to take cases, I believe at a fixed rate because the county is involved, criminal cases for those clients that don't, for whatever reason, don't qualify for the public defender but can't afford a private criminal attorney. And they are their own entity now. They work with the county. They are separate from us, but they're still acting in the same capacity.
Great. Well, good. Well, thank you so much for all your hard work at the Bar Association. I think this is a really great service for not only potential litigants, but also attorneys. And I can't thank you enough. And for me personally, it just really helped with my practice, especially when you're a young attorney or you're just coming from a different practice area. The thing that really helps is it gets you experience in the courtrooms right away, which is something that, if you go work for a firm, you're not necessarily going to get that courtroom experience because they're going to want to, have you shadow someone for a while. And when I had graduated, no one was hiring attorneys. But after a year being in the court system, I had tons of law firms that were interested at that point because I knew the judges. I had been in there and represented people. So your work does great, and thank you so much for all of that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we want to move on. Alay, we're all really excited to hear from you, the guru of marketing for lawyers, especially with the COVID-19 situation going on. So if you could just take it away and let us know what you're thinking, what you're doing, what thoughts you have for all of us, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, David. First off, I guess what I would say is that it's going to be interesting to listen to this recording in a couple of years and see how things kind of work their way out. There's a lot going on with COVID-19, and also if you're launching your practice, you're probably going through a lot of similar mental challenges that people have as they're sheltered in place during this crisis too. And what I found in working with lawyers over the years is that tactics that work for one attorney may not work for another attorney. And there's lots of reasons why. Practice areas are different, styles are different, personalities are different, budgets are different, right? All of that stuff plays into it. And so what I'm going to do today, just as a starting point, and then we can talk more about specifics. And if people have questions, I'm happy to answer those. And the panel can also answer those, is really just talk about three basics. And if you do these three basic things, you will ultimately be successful as an attorney. If you don't do these three basic things, pretty much no matter whatever else you do, it's not going to work out. So this is where practices start. This is where attorneys who are looking to accelerate their results or just start to attract clients and build a practice can start. And the three things are, number one, you have to be a great attorney. There's no substitute for that. So always be working on improving your skill as a lawyer. especially if you're new, you've just passed the bar, you decided to hang out your own shingle. If you have time on your hands, it's a great opportunity to learn your craft and get better and better and better at it. The better you are, the more other attorneys you're going to impress. And for most attorneys, a lot of referrals come from other attorneys. So the quality of your expertise does matter. The second thing, and this is in your handouts, is to focus on two aspects of this situation. One is winning the mental game, and the other is winning the physical game. And in the age of COVID-19, or actually if you're just starting off your practice, both of those things can be challenging. And if this was interactive, I'd be asking, we'd be having a discussion over what's more important, the mental game or the physical game. What do we mean by that? But just for the purposes of our webinar, the mental game is what's going on between your ears. You may have noticed that people that stand out, whether it's in a group setting or in a classroom, or they're in, they might be speaking on a panel, those people stand out because they bring something to the table. They have a certain mental approach that is positive, right? They're not, down in the dumps, and they don't have a long face, but they're positive. They communicate with energy, and they love what they do, and that shows. So they also communicate with passion. And if you can do those three things, projecting that positivity, projecting energy, projecting passion, you're going to find that clients are much more likely to sign up with you, that relationships, referral relationships or other relationships, are much easier to put together when you ask someone for help. They're going to be much more likely to say yes and offer to help you out. So it's those three things on the mental side. And it sounds easy as we're sitting here talking, but when you've been cooped up in your home office for weeks, and the phone's not ringing, and the courts are closed, and you've run out of work on your plate, it gets really hard to maintain that positive outlook, especially when you might have other people who are, talking about how crappy things are and how poor things are. When those times happen, just remember that no matter what field of law you're in, people are succeeding right now. There are people in your area of law who are doing really well right now. And so how you respond to this crisis or any other hardship is really up to you. You can choose to say, woe is me, and, get up, leave your desk, and just kind of go outside and take it easy. Or you can say, you know what, I refuse to accept that. I'm going to do what I have to do to make my practice successful. And you seek that out. I've got some specifics about that, but we have a few folks here who have built their practices. Dave and Marie, love to get your thoughts on that mental component.
Sure, Marie, you want to start?
Sure. I totally agree that you have to remain really, really positive. And one sort of little piece of advice that I received when I was a younger attorney, and I was just terrified of going to court, I think in my first or second, first couple years. But I had a wonderful mentor, and he just told me, just go in there and pretend that you know what you're doing. And that kept ringing in my head, and I would just walk into court and just keep that in my head. Just pretend that you know what you're doing. And then after a while, you're not pretending anymore. You're actually confident. And, the one thing that I miss right now terribly is being able to go to court. I miss it so much, but I know that I'll be back there one day, and I keep that in the back of my head. But that, to me, that is the best thing of my practice area is going to court. So that's number one. And if I learned anything, it's walk in and be confident and pretend like you're confident. Even if you're shaking, just go in there. Same thing with trying to develop and bring in clients. What's the worst that can happen? You go out there, try to market yourself. The worst that can happen is they'll say no, or you don't get a call back. But you know what? Just keep being confident, going out there, putting yourself out there, letting people know what you're capable of doing and offering to them. And the business will come. Other attorneys absolutely are a great referral source. as well as other professionals. I get a lot of referrals from other real estate related professionals like realtors and mortgage brokers and those sorts of things. But you got to develop those relationships, and those people, especially in times like this, who are they going to refer their clients to? The attorney that they have confidence in. That's who. And this morning I just received a call from a mortgage broker that I've known for many years, and her one of her good friends is buying a house and with her boyfriend, and they want a contract. And who does she call? Even now with COVID-19, the first attorney she calls is me, because she has a relationship with me, and she's confident that I will be able to help her dear close friend. So I think it's all about the confidence and putting yourself out there. Like I said, the worst that can happen is you'll just get a no and you move on to the next client. But by and large, I think, that is probably the best piece of advice that you can sort of have. What do you think, David?
Yeah, Alay, I really love how you started with just staying positive. I think that's a really something everyone should keep in mind. And for me, the way that plays out is, I see a lot of people posting things on LinkedIn and writing blogs, and you know what? That's not what I like to do. It's not my style. And I think it's accepting that, hey, it's not a one size fits all. That may work for some people. It may work for you if you try it. And I'm not saying don't try it, but I realize, what are my strengths? And it's really being a people person, reaching out to my network and having phone calls. And I find that to be, where I get my motivation, my inspiration, my positive attitudes. Call those people you've built relationships with, that you're either on boards with or your colleagues, and just check in. Hey, how are you doing? It doesn't have to be, you need to rush and do what everyone else is doing, put up some blog if you don't think that's going to add value. And so I've really thought about that. And then also, the nice thing is we have time to think about, what are you going to do that's outside the box? In Family Law Matters, you don't really reach out to past clients because a lot of times, you don't want to bring up a difficult portion in their life. But that being said, we have tons of clients that are impacted by this, whether they share custody with kids, they have support issues there they need to modify. So I started reaching out to people kind of delicately that way, which helped bring in some business. But it really, this period really tests, how are you as a brand? How much time and effort have you put into networking in your business? And then it also is really good on honing stuff. So Alay, I'd love if we could, dive in more particular, what are you seeing your clients do? What's successful? What kind of guidance do you have in that regards?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go into that right now. But just to wrap up on the mental game aspect, if you're feeling really down, and you're not feeling positive, you might be looking for some specific strategies to, increase your energy and your enthusiasm. So there's 3 things that I suggest people do. The first is just to practice honesty. We're in tough times, and it's okay to acknowledge that. That's not being negative. But being honest with yourself, being honest with other people is really important. Being honest about the situation and honest about what you can and cannot do for your clients. That's terrific. That grounds us all. And then practicing gratitude. If you're listening to this, you're in a much better situation than probably 99% of the planet. So, no matter what your situation is, because you're an attorney and you live in California and you live in Contra Costa County, your practice here, we have a lot of things that we can be thankful for. And remembering that is a great way to bring positivity back. And also practicing wellness. There's a lot of, fortunately, there's a lot of things coming up now in the legal industry, but really practicing that self-care and taking time to mentally unwind, mentally recharge, whatever that happens to be for you. So those are some ways that you can kind of recap the positivity. So as far as what people are doing, Dave, Marie, you guys had some great insights. I think it really comes down to, for me, the one recommendation I give to people who already have a practice is to pick up that phone and start calling. Call your referral sources. If you can, call your clients. Call your strategic partners, call other attorneys, but pick up that phone and call, or text. That's fine too. Texting is kind of awesome. And if you want to, jump on a video conference, but whatever it is, reach out and connect with people. And that is just as relevant when we get through the COVID-19 crisis as it is during the COVID-19 crisis. We can do a lot of things on the web, and it's totally possible to build a law firm based on internet-based advertising and those kinds of things. But for most attorneys, the single greatest source of fantastic clients is through the relationships that they've built over the years. So even if you're just starting your practice, planting those seeds, building those relationships right now is going to serve you well down the road. And if you're already established, rekindling those relationships is probably the #1 thing you can do to move things forward. The other point too is, and Dave, you're a great example of this, right? When you started your practice, you used the lawyer referral network to build your practice up because you were taking action. It's great to have, all these wonderful ideas and have strategies and have plans, but if you don't take action, that's all going to just fall by the wayside. So picking up that phone, no matter how big and scary and heavy it looks, but picking up that phone and making those calls, or sending those emails, or setting up those virtual Zoom meetings. Those are all examples of taking action. And the faster you take action as an attorney to build your book of business, doesn't have to be the right action, just has to be action. The faster you're going to learn, and the faster you're going to get some results. So I'm going to go through some specifics here that I mentioned. One is doubling down on your referral relationships. We talked about that. The other one is spoiling your clients a little bit. Go above and beyond. Do something cool for them, and then, ask them for a referral. Ask them if they know someone. Remind them if they know somebody, hey, I would love to speak with them and help them out. And then do things to stay top of mind. So David, to your point, blogging isn't for everybody, but a lot of attorneys are in an event-driven business. And Marie mentioned that when someone has a need, when one of her referral sources has a need, she's going to be top of mind and she's going to get that call. It doesn't matter what is going on. And so the more you can do to stay top of mind with your referral sources, with your clients, with other attorneys, the better off you can be. So there's a few things that we do already that we don't take credit for. One is attorneys do a fair amount of community service. Not often do we promote that, but it's a great way to stay top of mind. Sharing with people the things you do in your community, the ways that you give back is terrific. And if you're comfortable with this, not everybody is, but if you are, what's going on in your situation? That works for a lot of people too. Giving people some insight into your life, into what's going on with your family can work really well. And then for those of us who were really cranking, and then maybe our practices have taken a step back during the COVID-19 situation, this is a great idea to go back and dust off those old ideas that you had for marketing, whether it's a newsletter or a video or a blog, doing webinars, any of those kinds of things, sending out thank you gifts to your clients. Those are all great ways to just kind of put some gasoline back into your practice. And the third is speaking. So speaking is a real cornerstone for a lot of attorneys. Can't do it in person right now. But even if you can't do it in person, we can still do webinars. Those are still fair game. Also, a lot of people that do podcasts like to have attorneys on as guests. The reason for that is when an attorney is on and speaking about their area of expertise, they're always adding a ton of value. Whether it's a podcast or an interview, any of those settings, they're always delivering a ton of value for free, and the podcasters and the interviewers love that, and their audience loves that. So that might be an interesting way you can get your feet wet into a fun new technology. And then videos. If you want to do videos and that's always excited you and interested you, hey, may want to. You probably have a lot more equipment now as far as lighting and cameras than you ever had before. And it's easier than ever to make a video. So that's another thing that you can be doing.
Maria, I saw you nodding your head when Alay was talking about treating your current clients really well. Did you have anything you wanted to comment in that regard?
Yes, actually, it's funny you said that because obviously with this COVID-19, there's a lot of new laws. There's the PPP program. There's a lot of changes in with unemployment and then of course, there's all these, because I also do real estate, so there's all these different executive orders and emergency orders relating to unlawful detainers that I'm trying to stay on top of. So I have clients that I'm literally, digesting all that information, and I do it for free. And I'm just sending them here's like a memo. Here's a summary of the PPP. So you got a PPP loan. Here's a 4-page summary of what you should do. And I just, send it out to all my clients for free, because you know what? It's just like you said, it's giving them a gift, making them feel like you're there for them, and so I can afford to do that right now, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm sending out these memos on very pertinent issues that are important to my clients today. I'm not charging them for it. I'm just sending it out. So that's what I'm doing. And I know it's going to pay off, because they're going to remember me when this is all over and they need an attorney. Oh, that's Marie. She's the one that sent me that wonderful memo that helped me through that horrible time, and I'm going to call her now.
Brings up another good point that I've been thinking about a lot is, a consistent thing in my practice, in my career, is I've seen that responsiveness goes so far for clients. I've had tons of clients that they leave their prior attorney because they're not getting responses timely. And so that's something, I know it's hard because you don't want to be glued to your phone 24/7, but responding within 24 hours and saying, hey, I got your email, even if you can't give a substantive response, and say, I'm going to give you a response in a couple of days, goes a huge way. And so right now, if things are slowing down, I'm really getting back to people as quickly as I can. And the other thing that I'm doing to my current clients is a lot of my litigation cases, I know that we're going to be litigating. It's just, when are we going to be litigating? When are the courts going to open back up? So I might say, hey, you owe me, a couple $1,000s. I'm going to cut that down, by a little bit if you send in a check, because I know I'm going to have the cash flow coming at some point. Then they feel good, like, hey, you're doing something for me during this difficult time. It's kind of like a win-win situation. I know not everyone has the opportunity to do stuff like that, but it's little things like that that I try to do, stay top of mind and be really responsive. So I know we're talking a lot about the networking in the COVID environment, but I also want to touch a little bit on traditional without COVID, because at some point, this is going to open back up. And I was wondering if we could all kind of give our experience, the different ways that you can do networking traditionally. I know I've identified, the Bar Association. I know there's actually networking groups. I'm a part of Council One, which is a networking group here in the Bay Area. I know there's chambers of commerce. There's professional groups. Marie, do you have any insight on that? And then Alay after.
Yeah. I actually, when I practiced law in San Francisco for many years, and then decided to move to Brentwood. And so I was changing counties. I was sort of coming to Contra Costa County. And so at that time, I decided, and so this was about, I want to say about 7 years ago, when I left San Francisco, started my firm here. I decided to join BNI. Now it's a lot of work, but it pays off. And I have relationships that I developed, networking relationships that I developed through BNI, that I still get the payoff today. So that was a great networking group that I enjoyed. The downside is it does require, a lot of effort on your part to go to the meetings and do there's all kinds of training you have to do and all that. So there's a bit of work that you put into it, but you get a lot out of it, and it's still paying off. And I got so busy from BNI, and even now, I'm still getting so many referrals from people that I met when I was in BNI. So that's one group that I can say that has paid off. The other networking that I do is I'm in the INSA court, and I also joined that INSA court as when I moved out here to Contra Costa, and that has also paid off, because I've met so many attorneys, and some of your best referrals come from other attorneys. Attorneys that meet you and are impressed with your confidence, they're going to feel better about referring one of their clients to you. You know, because attorneys are very, you know, protective of their clients, I've come to learn. So they have to feel confident that A, you're going to do a great job for their client, but also B, you're not going to undermine them. Like, you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. So, you know, and I've been able to develop relationships with attorneys. They trust that I'm not going to undermine them or steal their client. And they also trust that I'm going to do a good job. So Inns of Court was a great way for me to get in, and at the same time get to meet judges in a different setting, because a big part of my job is being in front of the court. And so I felt that the Inns of Court kind of was a double, you know, bonus or whatever, because you get to meet the judges and also meet a lot of very good attorneys that could potentially be referral sources for you.
Good. Interesting. Hey, and we got one question that came up. Alay, maybe you could talk on this, but on the topic of having speaking engagements or podcasts or articles, you know, how do you get in front of the groups and the hosts to kind of be able to present that information to a wider audience? Do you have any tips or strategies on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It actually dovetails really well with our discussion on networking, because, you know, you could go hire a publicist to book you into these interviews on podcasts and get speaking gigs. There's people that you can hire, pay money to do that. But the easiest way to do it is to just leverage your network. And if you've done a nice job building out your network, people are going to know people who are podcasters. They're going to know people who need speakers. They're going to be involved in other groups. If you have a strong network, you can leverage your network to get podcasting interviews, to get speaking gigs. Tried and true way of doing that. It is very much, you know, who you know is so important. And I thought your comments, both your comments on networking were terrific. There's so many networking organizations that are out there. When I work with an attorney to build their networking strategy, it usually takes a few hours because there's so many different options that we got to put together. The one silver thread that comes through it is that if you're going to be in a networking organization, make sure you're proud to be in that organization, that you feel good when you're there, and that you're surrounded with people that you respect and that you enjoy hanging out with. Also helps if that group of people are likely to refer you into some fantastic clients. And the third thing I would look for if you're in a group is to take a leadership role. And that's going to do a couple of things for you. The first is it's going to force you to actually put time into the networking group. Like Marie said, networking takes a lot of time. From a time perspective, it's the most expensive networking, most expensive marketing strategy for lawyers, because the hourly rates, right? Networking takes up a lot of time, so it costs a lot of money maybe. But also you get out of networking what you put into it. And being a leader will increase your visibility, and it will ensure that you're 100% into the organization.
Alay, those really ring true to me. And I think the way that I think of networking is it's like contributing to your retirement account. Is if you just contribute a little bit each month, over time it's going to grow. And I think that's the really hard thing that's daunting is it's not an instant gratification game. It's one that really takes a long time. And there's also, if you read a little bit about it, there's kind of a networking relationship where you actually have almost like a dating relationship, and it takes a while before you get to the point where you start comfortable referring cases to each other. And then, like you were saying, you want people to network with that you enjoy spending time with, you know, and so you'll kind of you'll gravitate towards that group. And it's okay to, I feel like, understand that, hey, I'm not going to get along with everyone in one particular organization. I'm going to try to. Doesn't mean I'm not going to try, but I might just gravitate towards other people. But for me personally, the Contra Costa Bar Association, I've been involved for about a decade now, and that's been a huge networking opportunity, because everyone knows as an attorney, you get a lot of your referrals from other attorneys, and those are actually the most high quality referrals in my experience, because it's another professional that's really vouching for you. And then as far as the networking groups, I'm in Council 1, and this goes to the question about getting in front of people to do podcasts or speaking, like we're always looking for someone to come speak to our group, and there's tons of groups around the area. So that's, those are opportunities to get involved and say, hey, can I do something in your chapter and talk to people, sort of a thing. So those are all really great points. And I want to talk briefly about online advertising or print advertising. I know in my experience, I've been bombarded by, Westlaw reps or Thomas Rauter reps are saying, now's the time because of COVID, everyone's rushing to online advertising. Maria and Alay, do you guys have any comments on that?
I have pretty strong opinions on that, so maybe I'll let Marie go first.
No, I'd actually like to hear what you have to say, because I don't have very strong opinions on that. Okay. So I'll let you take that.
Sure. So first off, any marketing tactic can work. So there are attorneys that have built fantastic practices based on online advertising. Online advertising also works particularly well for certain kinds of practice areas. Personal injury, family law, criminal defense. Those three works really well, but also other practice areas, it can work too. That being said, I just continue to be stunned and amazed that as far as I know, it's the only kind of service when you talk about these digital marketing organizations where they can say, you know what, we're going to charge you, $3,000-4,000 a month, and you're probably not going to see anything for about 6 months because we're dialing in the SEO. But then after that, you should start to see some traffic coming through your website, or you can accelerate it, pay maybe $2,000 more a month, and we'll use Google Ads to send those leads to you. To me, that's a lot of money to shell out, especially if you're starting up your firm. And as online advertising gets more and more popular, the prices for the online ads, the Google ads, go up, not down. It's actually more expensive now to get those people to click on your ad than it ever has been before. And it's going to get harder and harder and harder for them to take action. So what does that mean to an attorney? What it means is you're going to be spending more and more and more for online advertising, not less. Your results are going to be lower and lower. And by the way, when someone does click through, oftentimes they're not going to be a great potential client for you. So in addition to spending all this time, all this money on online advertising, now you're going to also potentially be wasting a significant amount of time screening crappy clients. So if you're going to do online, make really sure you go with an organization that charges a lot of money because they're reputable, they know what they're doing, and you're going to most likely get results that way. They're more expensive, but if you're going to do online advertising and get results that way anyway, you're going to be spending a lot of money. So spend a little bit more, go with a really high quality provider.
Marie, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I don't know that my input is I think that those are very good points. I think just based on my personal experience, when I started this firm with my partner back in 2013, we did some print advertising in our local Brentwood press out here in Brentwood. And, I have to say that I don't know that we, just like you were saying, that you're not going to get a lot of, I don't feel like I got a lot of, clients from print advertising. So, and I got a lot more clients from, networking and BNI and all that stuff. So then at that point, we kind of switched and tried to go and do some online advertising again through the Brentwood Press because they have an online. And again, we felt like we weren't really getting a lot of clients. So we sort of went away from that. And, right now we're just focusing more on networking. We do some print advertising in a local magazine out here that is more of it's the kind of magazine that features all sorts of businesses out here in East County, which is 110 Magazine. And in fact, last December, my partner and I were on the cover of the magazine, which was a lot of fun. But and I felt that puts us out there a little more in the sense that it's a more personal like they'll tell your story a little more. So, you know, when we advertise in that magazine, they also write a little editorial about me and my partner. And it kind of, you know, like, I think that's something that you were talking about at the beginning or earlier, Alay, that you said that, you know, it's not a bad thing sometimes to talk about yourself and your family and who you are. And that helps to personalize you in front of your client. Your client doesn't feel that you're some sort of, oh my goodness, you know, she's a lawyer, she's not approachable, you know, and they feel like they can approach you. So I think we had a lot more success with the 110 magazine than with any other print or online advertising. So that's been my personal experience. I don't know if you could sort of comment on that, Alay, if that's consistent with what you're thinking.
Yeah, it is. And I haven't done a lot of work with print. Most of the clients that have tried it haven't gotten results either. But a lot of that, maybe it's just not, you know, it's not the right implementation of a print advertising campaign. For example, there are ways, you know, if you were writing articles for, let's say, trade association, let's say just you focus on the construction industry, and you had an opportunity to do a weekly column or a monthly column in their newsletter that went out to all the construction companies that are members of that association. It might be worth advertising in that, because you're already doing a column and people are more likely to see your column, following it for a while, and then go, yeah, you know what, maybe I'm going to give her a call. So that might be a way where it could work. And also, I have worked with clients. I don't do the online marketing myself, but I have helped clients build very successful businesses, law firm practices based primarily on online. But it has to be the right fit for the right client, for the right attorney. Just going out and hiring an agency is usually not the best way to go unless you have a plan in place ahead of time.
Well, and if I can comment, it's funny you said the right thing for the right place for the right attorney, because we're out here in East County and Brentwood, and you know, we've got this community out here that traditionally has had to drive over the hill and into, you know, Walnut Creek to see an attorney. I think that the print advertising that we did out here and that we've been doing, that's putting us in front of the people that are out here, I think is kind of works for us, because it lets people know that you don't have to drive all the way over there to get an attorney. And I can't tell you how many clients that we have that are local to this area that have seen us in the 110 magazine. And that's the reason that they've called us, and they say, we're so happy that your firm is here because we don't have to drive all the way to Walnut Creek to see an attorney. So maybe that's why that worked for us, because of that geographic, you know, distinction. Yeah.
It's probably a big driver for it.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the topic, you know, if there was one association where I would suggest you double down and get really involved with, it would be the Bar Association, for all the reasons that you both mentioned. And sometimes it might be worth placing an ad in their online newsletters as well. Even if you don't get a call out of it, it's for a good cause, and you can feel good about, you know, investing that money in the organization. So that helps too. And just maybe as a closing thought on the networking stuff, you know, try and have some fun with it too. I know some people that have sponsored, for example, a lot of chambers do these golf tournaments, and you can sponsor a hole, right? And typically there's alcohol involved, and it's kind of a fun thing to do. And people have picked up a lot of business by sponsoring a hole at a Chamber of Commerce golf tournament. So if it's fun, if you enjoy doing it, I'd encourage you to put a strategy in place so you know how this is going to benefit you, and then go for it. You can always change it later if it doesn't work out.
Lay, that's a great point. For me personally, I'm really into fitness. And so a lot of times I'll ask someone, hey, want to go on a hike or go to a workout class? And it's a little awkward sometimes, but you know, some people are open to it. And then it's like, you're doing something that you love and also building a relationship. So anytime you can find multiple things you're passionate about and combine them, I think to your point, it really shows. We had another really interesting question come up about purchasing another attorney's book of business or law practice. Do you guys have any comments, experience, thoughts on that?
Yeah, just it really depends on the practice area. So purchasing an estate planner's book of business, for example, is less likely to be useful versus purchasing a family law book of business or a business litigation practice where those cases are going to go on for a longer period of time, and they're going to, come back over and over again. So I would be careful about that. And also the challenge with purchasing an attorney's book of business is you're getting their current clients, but you're not getting that attorney's relationships. And those relationships are what typically drives the business over multiple years. So there's ways to do that. There's you can bring an attorney into your firm, and you can create a succession plan for that attorney that you brought in. So over time, that attorney can transfer those relationships to you. People start to associate, both of you together, and then that attorney can ride off kind of into the sunset, and they'll have a really nice earnout at the end of it. I just did a podcast. It's on my website, where I interviewed Roger Brothers of Brothers Smith. I think he's a member of this bar association. And he actually describes in the podcast how he and his partner, Wes Smith, did exactly that. They transitioned their practice from two other senior attorneys who are well respected in the community. So he breaks that all out for you. And it's a textbook way to execute a succession plan. So Ray, to your question, I would think about succession planning versus just an outright purchase.
All right. Is there any other comments you guys wanted to make? Closing remarks on business development issues? Anything you wanted to add?
Let's see. Yeah, just one final thought. With business development, if you're like me, you're introverted. I don't like doing business development. That's why I coach it, because I'm not naturally good at it. I had to invest a lot of time and a lot of effort to do it. I think I'm pretty good at it now. But what really helps is to calendar your business development time. It's so easy to get distracted and to put it off and to procrastinate. But if you can calendar your business development hours on a daily or a weekly basis, fill it with some kind of activity, whether it's picking up the phone, whether it is writing a blog, whether it's putting together a print ad, whatever it happens to be, but fill it with some business development activity. If you do that, day by day, week by week, you are going to get results because you're taking action. That's really what it comes down to.
Great. Thank you, Alay. So now you've got the client in the door, and this is kind of to you, Marie. What are the red flags when they come into your office? How do you handle those red flags? How do you manage your clients to the best of your abilities?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I've had a few in my past. So where do I start? I mean, basically some of the red flags, obviously the obvious one is if you have a client that is a bad pay, is always late, you always have to, go after them. And I'm one of those attorneys that's very diligent about retainers. I'm very upfront, and I ask for a retainer up front, and I make it clear that, as the case goes on, I'm going to request a replenishment, and I'm very diligent about my retainer replenishments. So first of all, you basically need to be able to ask your clients to pay you. So don't be shy, just be direct. And if clients, sort of push back, say, look, I've got to pay for my staff, I've got to pay for my rent, I've got, this isn't free. I mean, clients need to understand that the expectation is that they're going to pay their bills, replenish their retainers, and also cooperate. And so that brings me to my other big red flag is the clients that have unrealistic expectations or that are just not cooperative or not responsive. That's the other sort of big red flag. And so I've kind of had a hodgepodge of those types of clients in the past. And if I can, I try not to get retained in the first place. I try to spot them, before I even get retained. So if someone comes in to see me for a consultation and they're you know, it's obvious that even just paying for the 1 hour consultation is, you know, they're going to complain about like the cost and all that. And you could tell that they're going to want that they basically want the world, and they want it at a bargain basement price. Probably don't want, you know what, you should turn down because it's just going to be a headache. Just turn it down. I had recently another client that I represented maybe about 3-4 years ago. It was a wrongful foreclosure case, and I was able to settle the case for the client. But at the very end, the client did something very bad. I don't want to get into it, but it made me look bad as an attorney and just left me with a bad taste in my mouth that the client went and did this behind my back. Made me look bad to the opposing counsel. And so that relationship ended because the case ended and we settled. But then about 2 weeks ago, the same client reached out to me and wanted some help on an insurance issue question. And I decided I'm just going to refer him to somebody else and tell him that that's not something that I do. Even though I could have taken his case, having had that experience, I knew, and I just sent him to somebody else. So those are the red flags that I kind of look for, and I try to spot them as early as possible. And and I think it just comes with experience. There's some clients that are high maintenance clients, but some of them I can still deal with. I think it's not that you should shy away from the high maintenance clients per se, but it's the ones that have the unrealistic expectations. Those are the ones you really need to watch out for.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head with really managing expectations and being upfront about the billing. For me, you got to be able to talk to your clients about how much things cost. I'm always in family law weighing the cost benefit analysis. Like, okay, is this what you want to do? Here's how much it's going to cost. The other thing is, we make sure you have money in your retainer before you do the work. Don't agree to a $15,000 hearing and then afterwards ask them for the money, because once they owe you a bunch of money, the dynamic completely flips, because all of a sudden beforehand they wanted you to do work for them. Now you want money from them and they've got leverage over you. So I think like you said, it's kind of a skill you develop over time, but letting people know up front, I need a retainer, here's how much this is going to cost, send in a check and I'll do the work for you. And if they're not going to pay you and they owe you some money, and we're going to get to this next, but get out of the case. Don't let that accounts receivable balloon. The other thing I find, everyone talks about multiple attorneys, and if you're the third attorney, be wary. And I totally agree with that, but I'm like helping people. And and especially now because of COVID-19, if you're coming in, you're willing to pay my retainer, I'm probably not going to say no unless there's a huge red flag. And what I find is if you can recruit other people to help you with the clients, it can help make them more reasonable. So the example I have right now, I have a woman I'm representing. She's got a 3-year-old child, and it's kind of the transition to dad getting overnights with the child. And I actually said, look, you really need a therapist or a parenting coach, and I'd like to bring them into the conversation. And then you can both kind of have conversations about her expectations. And I feel it really helps if you can have allies on your side in those situations. So let's go to our last topic, Marie, on ending the attorney-client relationship. If you could please give us some comments on that.
Well, the first thing that you need to know, obviously, and it's a difficult situation, but once you make that decision, I think you have to follow through. So if there's anything that I can say is, don't waffle. Make the decision and follow through, because you're going to have some clients that will come back and say, oh no, don't, and then they'll maybe give you some money or whatever, a little bit of money to try to keep you string you along or whatever. But invariably you're going to end up back in that same situation that brought you to that decision. So number one, once you've made that decision, what I try to do is that's it, we're done. You've made that decision, and now it's time to withdraw. Now, you have to understand that there's no absolute right to withdraw. So you have to ask your client, first of all, for permission. You got to get if you're in a, litigation, family law or civil or whatever, probate, you need a substitution of attorney. So you need to request that the client sign that. And if the client doesn't, then what's the next step? The next step is to file a motion to withdraw from the representation. Now, the timing of all that is really, really important, especially when you have active litigation or family law proceeding or some other proceeding, whatever it may be. You have to give the client sufficient notice so that they can give them that opportunity to go out and get another attorney. So, the timing of it is crucial in terms of filing this motion. Now, I can get into the actual filing of the motion and some of the things that has to happen for that for you to get the court to approve your motion to withdraw. But David, I don't know if you wanted to sort of follow up on some of my comments first.
Yeah, I did. A few things on that point is if a client's being difficult and I've decided that I want to let them go or I'm getting close to that point, I'll always say, go get a second opinion from another attorney. And usually when you say that, they know they're out the door and hopefully they'll meet with someone who's going to take over their case or give them a little bit of a reality check. And so I think that's a tool that everyone should keep in mind. Another thing is going into the billing issue. If I've got, someone owes me $5,000 and things are not working out, hey, send me a check for $3,000 and we'll call it a day and sign this sub of attorney. I also agree that if you've made the decision, send them the sub of attorney immediately. Don't wait. I know you're worried about offending them, but it's, hey, go talk to someone else. Here's the sub. The other thing is in litigation, especially with very, very large cases. I mean, if you've got a 2-week trial and you got to give them a fee estimate before you start getting ready for trial. And I usually add like 20 or 30% onto it because the last thing you want to do is run out of money a week before or 2 weeks before the trial. Because like you're hitting on, Marie, some judges will say, that's not my problem. I've reserved this court date. You're going. And then you're going to be sitting in trial not getting paid. Luckily, it's never happened to me. But these are the things that you always got to be thinking about because you don't want to get caught on those. And then, one thing we could circle back at the end about client reviews. I mean, I know a lot of times, sometimes they might threaten, hey, I'm going to give you a bad review. And I know that's in family law, it's a death wish. You really don't want to have a bad review. So a lot of it's managing and trying to get them in a positive place when you can try to get rid of them if you can. I know it's difficult. But yeah, Marie, if you could get into the specifics. I know you took a look at, there's a formal ethics opinion specifically on motions to be relieved as counsel.
Well, yes, and it's a very interesting ethics opinion. Hold on here. It's and by the way, the Bar Association, the State Bar Association has an ethics hotline, and I have on occasion used it when I have some thorny questions, well, my client, I just found out that my client lied to me or whatever. You want to talk to someone, you can call that ethics hotline and they will give you ethics opinions that you can read that will help guide your decision. So that's something that in these types of situations where you don't know if you should withdraw or the situation, mandates it or doesn't or whatever, and you need someone to talk to, that's a great resource. And these ethics opinions are a great resource. And I've used them for other, substantive issues like in cases that I've had. So always go to the ethics opinions and make use of that ethics hotline, especially in situations where you're considering a withdrawal. But in that case, it was an interesting case because it wasn't an issue about money, this ethics opinion, which by the way is in the materials that we've provided. But it's a case where the attorney basically found out or determined that the client's claim lacked probable cause, and it was just before trial. And so that's what the fact pattern addresses here. And the attorney basically confronts the client and says, you know, I can't continue to represent you because I've come across some information and I really think you should dismiss the claim, or I can't ethically continue to prosecute this claim for you. So in this particular opinion, the client came back and was very upset and said, no, you can't withdraw so close to trial. We've got this big trade show and this competitor is going to be participating, this opposing party that's part of this lawsuit is going to be participating. And so it's really important for you to not withdraw at this time. Like the timing is really bad. But in the fact pattern, the attorney sticks to his guns, just like we said, once you've made a decision, you stick to your guns, and he goes ahead and files this motion to withdraw. Then the client opposes the motion to withdraw. And the court orders the attorney to file under seal a detailed declaration about why they're seeking to withdraw. So that's what the fact pattern is here. It's a really interesting case to read, and it goes on for quite some time. But I think the most important take-home message here is that you've got all these sort of competing duties as an attorney. So number one, you have a duty to withdraw in a situation where you believe the client's claim lacks probable cause or probability. So that's one duty. The other duty is to not act in a way that could prejudice your client. Of course, withdrawing so close to trial potentially is going to result in a prejudice to the client. So that's another duty that kind of gets weighed by the court. And the third duty, and perhaps according to this particular opinion, one of the most important duty is to preserve the confidences of the client. So when you read through this opinion, the real take-home message here is what information could you give to the court in this situation where you're being ordered in camera to basically file a declaration, give it to the judge with detailed information as to why you're going to withdraw from the case. And the upshot of this case is basically that you have your duty to preserve the confidence of your client is so high that you have to basically either get your client's permission to disclose the information that the court is ordering you to disclose, or in the alternative, file a writ petition to the Court of Appeal to challenge that court order. I think that's remarkable that's what this opinion is basically saying. I personally have never been in a situation like that where I have been ordered by the court to disclose what I believe is confidential attorney-client information. But according to this opinion, they're saying, no, you cannot disclose anything, any confidential information. David, I'm not sure if you have any comment on the case before I kind of move on, because I want to talk about how I personally address that particular issue when I file these motions to withdraw.
Well, I think this was a really unique case because the judge demanded information directly from the attorney. I would say in my experience, if you let the judge know that you have a conflict and that's it, the judge will typically let you out of the case. These were obviously extraordinary circumstances, but that's kind of my experience, is just say, hey, I've got a conflict, I need to get out, and that'll usually be enough.
And I agree. I personally have never had a case like this. I can say that the times I've had to file a motion to withdraw, I think I can count on one hand. Thank goodness. I've never had to do it more than this. I keep it very simple. There are basically 3 judicial council forms that you have to be aware of, and we've provided them to you. The first form is the actual application or the request, and it's Judicial Council forms M51, M52, and M53. And so the first form is the actual application. The second form is the attorney declaration, and they're very easy to fill out. And then the third form is the actual order, which you provide to the court along with your filed motion. Turning to the application itself, the second page of the application is very important for you to read as an attorney if you're in a situation where you have a client that is either a corporation or an LLC, or is somehow a representative, such as a trustee or a personal representative of some sort. Those types of people or entities have to be represented by an attorney in court. They cannot represent themselves. So it's really important for you to make sure your client understands that if you're going to withdraw, they've got to find another attorney because they cannot represent themselves in court. It has to be an attorney that represents them. And you know, a lot of people think that that's limited to just corporations and LLCs, but it's not. It actually extends to any other individuals that are in a representative capacity. Okay. Do you have
Great.
something to add, David?
Yeah, well, just bigger picture, also very important that the malpractice statutes start at the end of your attorney-client relationship. And a lot of times it's unclear when that is. And so best practices, even if you meet with a client for a consultation, is follow up with an email or letter that says, hey, it was nice to meet with you. Just to be clear, you know, you've decided, you know, you'll contact me later, but we have no attorney-client relationship. And then also at the end, just because they signed the substitution of attorney or you got your order granted to withdraw, I follow up with a letter to make sure it's in writing. And then remember that if that client comes back to you later and says, oh, hey, by the way, can you answer this quick question for me? If you answer that question, you might be moving the statute of limitations. So the answer is usually, hey, I'm not available, but you know, contact the Bar Association. They'll refer you to another attorney to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would say on that.
Yeah, that's a very important point. You're absolutely right that it's important to have clear delineation of when the representation ends. And what we do on even on cases, litigation that we do that's concluded, there's a final judgment or a settlement or whatever, is we have a closing, we have an official closing letter, and you know, make sure that goes out too. And we're very diligent about closing files and sending out the closing letter. Getting
Maria,
back,
we had a question from Marta specifically about, I think what she's getting at is talking with the judge, and she's proposing saying stuff like, I believe I no longer enjoy my client's confidence and trust, so I can no longer represent my client effectively.
yes, yeah, and I was actually going to go ahead and give you what my magic language is.
Okay.
But it's very similar, and I actually have a motion that's set for a hearing on May 15th, I believe it is, in Alameda County, and it's actually going forward. But this is the magic language that I always use. What the reason for the withdrawal. I always write, there has been a breakdown in the attorney-client relationship such that the undersigned counsel does not have the necessary information and resources for proper representation in this matter. That's my go-to language. And I actually got this from the Rudder Group. There's a guide on professional responsibility, and that is sort of in there, and that's the language that they kind of recommend. And I just cut and paste it and put it on all of my motions that I've ever filed, and I've never had an issue.
Great. Well, thank you. Very informative. So I know we've got about 10 minutes left, but I think I just wanted to wrap it up, have each of the panelists say some closing remarks, and then at the end, just kind of give everyone, as they know, this is a series, and I'll give you the dates of some of the next presentations. So Barbara, do you have anything closing?
Well, I'd just like to invite all of you who aren't already LRS or moderate means attorneys, and I see some of you are, thank you. Please either contact us directly at the Bar Association or look on the website, Expanding Your Practice. The forms are there. Just takes a few minutes to send them over to us and we can start sending you referrals.
Great. Just one more plug for the Bar Association. You know, if you get clients that call in and you can't help them, please send them to the Contra Costa County Lawyer Referral Services. It's a great way to say no to a client, but give them another option. I know that's what we do at our firm. Alay, anything else to add?
Just maybe a couple of things. You know, just to point to everyone, whether you're building your book of business as an associate in a firm or whether you have a firm of your own, you are running a business. And so it's a skill, it requires knowledge, and it's things that, you know, lawyers have not been trained on in law school. And so I encourage you, instead of just trying to figure it out as you go along, there are more resources for free than ever online. So you can do a DIY approach as long as you take the time and effort to get educated, or you can use a coach, you can use a mentor, you can use a group, but you can use other people to help you so you can get results faster than maybe you could just on your own. But whatever you choose to do, I encourage you to get educated about running a business, because you are. With that in mind, in the handouts, there were the last page of my slide is what is one action you will take and by when. If you want to email that one action and the due date, you want to email it to me. My address is in there. I will follow up with you and hold you accountable for taking that action.
That's great. Thank you, Alay. Marie?
I'm going to sort of plug the East County section for since I'm the current. And actually, it's a section that I created. I decided a few years ago that I wanted to start a brand new section out here in East County, and that was my dream, and it came to fruition this year. So if anything, I believe that, you know, number one, you should reach out to the Bar Association, the Contra Costa County Bar Association. Reach out to you know, sections that you might be interested in joining, or if you're already a member, you know, if you want to be a speaker, reach out to the different section leaders and let them know you would like to speak. The East County section would be more than happy to, you know, get volunteers for speaking opportunities. And then lastly, for the East County section, I just wanted to point out that we have a brown bag lunch on Thursday. It's at noon, and you'll find it on the Bar Association website. It's a Zoom brown bag meeting, and it's about coping with stress. And we have a professional, mental health professional that will be speaking and giving strategies for coping with stress. And that's one of the things we talked about here is, you know, even though we are all coping with stress, we have to continue to market and grow your business and remain positive. So this is one way, this is one thing that you can do to remain positive, is join us for this brown bag lunch, and it's free, and you know, listen in and get some advice on how to cope with stress and keep a positive outlook on in your practice.
Sounds like something everyone could benefit from right now. Well, I want to thank everyone for participating. Barbara, Alay, and Marie, and all of the attendees that came to watch. We very much appreciate it. The next session for this series, the Law Practice Management series, is on the 13th of this month, and the topic is using technology to enhance and secure your practice and cybersecurity. It's at 9 a.m. on the 13th, and then it's followed by another presentation on the 29th. Which is session number 4 regarding partnerships, personnel, the who, what, when, how to hire. And so thank you all for attending, and please feel free to reach out to any of the panelists if you have any follow-up or questions.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Very welcome. See you guys.
Bye-bye.